Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, CEO, keeper of the brand, marketing, and digital agency.
We're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. Plus, we interview some of the top business leaders in the industry.
And I've got somebody for you today. We're very excited. Helping provide us with business merit today is my friend, Aimee Keegan. She's the Director of Development and Community Relations at Acld. Aimee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
We're very excited. We're very excited to have you because I just love what Acld does, and I kind of want to jump right into it.
Let's do it.
All right. I just love Acld's mantra. So if you go right to the website, you can see it right there. It's Acld for an enviable life. Now, what does that mean to you, Aimee?
So our mission is to create an enviable life. And really, that's different to everyone. But it essentially means to lead a life that anyone would want to lead and to lead a life with dignity on your terms.
Love it. I just love that. And so tell us about Acld. What does it stand for? What is it that the organization's involved with?
So Acld stands for Adults and Children with Learning and Developmental Disabilities. And it's a nonprofit that has been serving the Long Island community for 65 years. We're actually celebrating our 65 years this year.
Yay.
That's a jubilee in itself.
It is. It's a really amazing agency that provides a wide range of services from residential to vocational to adult day programs, preschool programs, family support services, and so much more. We provide support for over 1,300 children and adults across Nassau and Suffolk counties at over 100 locations.
Wow. So how did you get involved, Aimee, with the organization?
So I actually just celebrated 7 years with Acld last week, ironically enough. But I have been in the field for about 17 years now. I actually started off at another agency doing similar work. And I was there for a long time before I got the opportunity to come and lead development at Acld. But it's definitely not the path that I thought I would be on. I actually thought I would be a reporter. That's where my career started off. And then I kind of fell into public relations and landed working at an amazing agency. And once you work with this population, it's in your blood. You can't leave it. So I hope to have many, many more years in this field.
That's one of the things about working with a nonprofit, and I know DB has had similar experiences where, you know, when you meet with the organization and you kind of see what's going on there, you take a tour or you meet some of the folks who are, consumers in the program, or you just fall in love with what's going on there and you just want to be a part of it. And, we're grateful that we've been exposed to so many organizations. And I have to say, I definitely would recommend, if you have the opportunity, have a tour of Acld just to see what's going on there. It's truly inspiring and amazing, the work that you do.
Thank you. It's definitely a hidden gem on South Oyster Bay Road.
And the weeks turn into years and the work is never done, Aimee. You still have so much more to do. So can you tell us a little bit about the services that you provide?
Sure. So we have residential services for more than 400 adults living with us across 46 homes and 37 apartments in both counties. We have over 500 people who attend our adult day program sites, where they gain independence, they work on personal goals, and they volunteer in the community at various different organizations. So they might do work with Island Harvest or Meals on Wheels, And they really become ingrained in the community and really support the communities that they're volunteering in. And we have a vocational program where we have over 350 adults in various stages of vocational support and people who are employed at over 100 companies on Long Island. We are one of the largest providers of supported employment on Long Island. And that's something that we really are very proud of, because we place people with different abilities who are looking to work in the workforce. So making connections out in the community is very important for us, because it can lead to opportunities for the people we support. And then, of course, we also have 2 preschools in Bayshore, where we provide support for children 3 to 5 years old. And recently we completed expansion on one of our preschools to add 4 additional classrooms at our Spiegel Children's Center in Bayshore, where we will welcome more children this fall, and we'll end up providing services to more than 180 children. So a lot of different services that ACLD provides.
That's just amazing. And, I mean, so right there is kind of what sets ACLD apart. I also, one of the things that I loved is we've had the opportunity to attend a few of the events that ACLD has been part of and organized, and I love how you give the center stage to the folks that are in the services that you provide, and you hear from them directly, how it's impacting their life. Can you share with us? You don't have to name names, but if you could share with us a story of someone that ACLD has worked with and what it meant to them. Sure.
So, yes, what you're talking about is when we allow at every event, we actually have someone talk about the mission of ACLD, and what better way to see that mission in action than to have someone who is directly impacted speak about their own experiences. And recently, at our luncheon event last month, we had a young woman who has been working with ACLD for 3 years. She is one of our front desk receptionists at our administrative offices. And she came to us. She's actually a student at a local college. She just recently graduated. And she had been looking for a job, and she has a variety of different physical disabilities, but she's a hard worker, and she wanted to find a job, and she came across ACLD in an ad somewhere online, and she applied, got connected to our vocational department, and was supported in learning the ropes at our administrative offices. And she has done so beautifully. She's become a spokesperson, essentially, for ACLD. Whenever we want someone to speak about the impact the agency has had on them, this young woman goes and she speaks. She actually recently toured the commissioner of OPWDD when she was on a recent visit to our campus. She led the tour for us. So it's just a beautiful way to put the people that we work for front and center, because that's why we're there. Yes.
It was just so amazing to hear from them directly, and to talk about what they do on a daily basis. And I had this conversation also with Lauren Marzo at the Viscardi Center. Yes. And I think that, often folks with disabilities, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have to make sure that we're including folks with disabilities, because not only from an inclusive standpoint, but also from the standpoint of there's different ways that they engage the world, different ways that they engage technology. And we need to explore that to make sure that, businesses that work with this population, they'll gain the knowledge to also serve and sell to that population, and think about different ways to be productive and to work that we might not otherwise think of. I mean, for example, folks who have physical disabilities, they depend on technology to do things at an everyday perspective that, we take it for granted, and they depend on technology to get that done. And I just think if we're not including that in our thought process, we're really missing out.
Right. We can't have the conversation about them. We have to have the conversation with them.
Exactly. You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Aimee Keegan. She's the Director of Development at Community Relations at ACLD. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Now, with the impact of the pandemic, how did that affect how you worked at ACLD? I imagine there was a serious impact there.
It was in about mid-March, pretty much when the world shut down. A lot of our programs, all of our programs actually, were suspended, with the exception of our residential program, which obviously operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there was a tremendous push to be able to make sure that we were not only supporting the people that lived with us and keeping them as safe as possible, but also protecting our staff. And we were very lucky that our nursing director at the time had been following this evolving story on the other side of the world in late December, early January. And she had the foresight to order PPE equipment and other things that would become hard to find in March and April of that year. So she kind of gave us the head start that we needed. And then from there, it was all hands on deck. Everyone who could move to work remotely. Fundraising obviously became a very big challenge that year. But we adapted just like everyone else. We moved by July. We were holding virtual fundraising events. We had at the time a COVID-19 fund. And it was easy at that point, in all honesty, to ask people for money because they knew what our mission was and they were just as vested in protecting the people that we support. So it was a very interesting year for fundraising. It was a very impactful year for the agency because we essentially had to look to ourselves to see what we could do to try to stem the infections that were occurring. Our now executive director, Rob Ciato, he was our chief operating officer at the time. He had come up with this brilliant idea to turn our adult day program building that was sitting vacant into a respite center where we could take folks who were sick out of a home but did not require hospital care and move them into here, have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week care, get them healthy enough that they could return back to their homes, keep them out of the hospital, and stem the infections in the homes. Because as you can imagine, it was very, very difficult to do that with so many homes.
Right.
We did end up losing 45 people over the course of the pandemic, and that was extremely hard on our staff, who really, they were the frontline workers. Overnight, they became essential workers. Wow. And so it's something that still reverberates throughout the agency, the loss of so many people in such a short amount of time. But I think it's also in many ways made our staff much more resilient and stronger in the process.
And just think about the number of lives you actually saved by placing that program within your organization. And so can you tell us a little bit about, and can you share with our audience just some of the misconceptions that you may face when you're speaking to the public or speaking to potential clients?
So I think one of the most common misconceptions that we face is when we open up a new home in a neighborhood. A lot of times, even before we've started to renovate a home, there'll be a lot of outcry from the neighbors initially because they think that we are everything but a group home for adults with developmental disabilities. They'll think it's so many different things that they think that their property values are going to drop, that we're bad neighbors. And then once they realize what our mission is and that this is something that you would want for your family member if you were in the same boat, that's when things really start to change. And people realize we're good neighbors. This is actually, we often have the best maintained houses on the block because we have landscaping and we work extra hard to make sure that we're good neighbors. But that's often a lot of times in the early days of development for residential homes, we face that sometimes. And most of the time it changes, sometimes it doesn't. And that just comes down to educating people on what we do, why we're there, and that anyone who has a family member with disabilities would want this for their own family member.
Absolutely. And so being in, public relations and communications, how do you change that mindset?
Education. Our residential program does a lot. The staff at the house will oftentimes meet with the neighbors. They'll invite them to come in and take a look at the house, meet the residents. It really is like trying to welcome yourself into the neighborhood as best you can so that people get a look, because 9 out of 10 times, it's just that they don't have experience with this, and they've never lived next to a group home. They don't understand what it is. But once they see and they have that opportunity to get that look inside, then they realize, okay, this is fine. This is a good thing for our neighborhood.
Now, Aimee, you mentioned a few collaborations that you have with some other nonprofit organizations such as Long Island Harvest. Can you tell us a little bit about your partnerships with other nonprofits and how that works?
Sure. So we do have a lot of collaborations, obviously through the Adult Day program, where we volunteer for a lot of other organizations. But we also do collaborate with a lot of similar agencies like FREE and IGHL and East End Disabilities. Where in the early days of our Rewearable program, we did some work with them. But we also do work with other colleges and universities. We've collaborated with Stony Brook University over the last few years to provide training and continuing education for our staff. We're working with NYIT. We're always looking to collaborate with other organizations because we know that we're all working towards the same common goal. Whoever it is that we're supporting or providing services for, we want to do the best that we can. So working with others is the best way to accomplish that.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Rewear. Let's go a little bit further into that. What is Rewear? How does that work?
So Rewearable is a program That's okay. It's a clothing recycling program that creates jobs for adults with developmental disabilities. It was established about 6 years ago. The program, like many other programs, picks up donations, has numerous donation drop-off boxes around Long Island. But what sets us apart from others is that while we work with a network of buyers that utilizes that clothing and provides us a source of revenue, it goes directly back into our program to provide jobs for adults with developmental disabilities. So we take new, gently used clothing. We pretty much take everything, every type of clothing and accessories and all of that. So it's something that's a beautiful program to see in action when you see the folks who work there, who maybe were not able to be in a business out in the community. In Rewearable, they have a more controlled environment and can really thrive in that program.
Yeah, Donyshia, that's an amazing setup that they have. And I mean, the reach of Rewearable is remarkable as well. I mean, we're not talking it's just a couple of bins of clothes. It's like thousands of pounds of clothes. And I'm sorry, can you share with us, Aimee, like what's the reach of the program? Because I know that, you're going out of state, you're going pretty much everywhere with where those clothes are going.
Well, before the gas prices were really high, yes, we were.
That's fair, yeah.
These days, we have to be a little bit more judicious about what we pick up and how far. But we've had a lot of local organizations do drives for us. So there's a church, St. Bernard's in Levittown, that does one annually for us, and they pull in about 5,000 pounds of clothing in this drive. Country Point in Plainview recently did a month-long drive for us, and they brought in about 8,000 pounds of clothing. So we want more people to think like that, schools, Girl Scout troops, to do those drives, colleges and universities, think of us, because it really does have an impact. That article of clothing that you're using to make more room in your closet is going to be life-changing for someone who has an opportunity to be employed and get their first paycheck. We all remember what that was like. It's no different for the people that we support.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio. Our guest today is Aimee Keegan, Director of Development and Community Relations at Acld. My name is Donyshia Boston-Hill, along with Ray Schwetz on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
What are some of the accomplishments, Aimee, that you're most proud of with Acld?
So we've been lucky enough to receive accolades and obviously accomplishments over the years. We've won Best Workplace and things like that really come from our staff. And we're very proud of things like those types of accomplishments and accolades, because knowing that we're doing well from the staff, the very people who are the backbone of our agency, is important. But one of the things that I really am very proud about is something I can't even share because it's not public yet. But
don't tease us, Aimee, because the work you're doing sounds amazing.
There is an event, though, that we did at the end of the pandemic that's being recognized by a really amazing organization very soon, that highlights everything that we went through in the pandemic. When I mentioned before that we had to adapt and do virtual events, we took the opportunity to really create an event that focused on the narrative of what happened during the pandemic. So we interviewed our staff, who did some really amazing things during the pandemic, to telling the story of some people and families who suffered through COVID and how they came back from that. And it really was a window into everything that happened that year. And I'm so proud that it's being recognized, and that we'll be able to share that with more people. And it'll be an archival piece of history for the agency. So that's something that really makes me proud that we were able to do that and that we're being recognized for that.
Well, definitely keep us abreast when it does become public, because we're like biting over here and we can't wait to just hear more about, you and, Acld receiving your roses for all the amazing work that you did and what you're doing currently now.
Yeah, I mean, the work that you're doing is very impactful to the community, and that is such an example of the kind of innovative thinking and the kind of innovative pivoting. I mean, we heard so much about that word pivot, but that right there is something I have not heard of an organization or a business doing. So kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
What are some of the next things that are kind of coming up for Acld? You folks put on amazing events. I've been, like I said, lucky enough to go to the casino night. I was able to go to the luncheon, and every event, it's like they're one-upping each other. I'm telling you, it's just incredible. At the luncheon, having that room with the senses,
the Zen room,
Zen room, that was awesome. I need that with a little Pink Floyd in the background, I think.
I think we all could use a little Zen in our lives these days.
Absolutely.
Yes. But that's the thing about your events, is that you truly get, not only is it just a fundraiser, but you truly get a window into the work that Acld is doing. So what are some of the events that are coming up for you next?
So we get to take a break now, thank goodness, because it was a marathon of 4 events in the last 6 months. But thank you for that. We have our Enviable Life Ball coming up in October. And as I said, it's the 65th anniversary. So that's going to be a big celebration where we're going to celebrate our staff for the amazing work that they do day in and day out, but especially through what they did through the pandemic. We hope to have more really cool things, like you mentioned, from the luncheon, We actually at that event had our art program
Yes.
create a mural that the guests could help paint and will hang in ACLD's administrative offices. The Zen Room, I think it will be hard to try and fit that in the Garden City Hotel, but it was a really cool experience because we do try to provide, like you said, a window into ACLD, because not everyone can come for a tour of our Blue program in Deer Park. But for them to see what's possible in these programs and how it impacts a person with autism, to have this immersive technology where you can step in and go anywhere in the world, it's a pretty cool thing. So I hope to incorporate more of that into our events so that people can really feel even more connected to our mission.
So effective. It really is.
Absolutely. And what's the one thought you would want to leave with our listeners?
If you're looking for services for your loved one, reach out to us. If you want to make a difference in someone's life and help create an enviable life, and you're passionate and you have compassion, come work for us. We always are hiring. So definitely please think of ACLD, whether you require services for your loved one or whether you want to help make an impact in this world, because it is truly gratifying to work for an agency like this where you live that mission day in and day out.
And your enthusiasm and your heart in what you do, that's shared by everyone in the staff and everyone in your programs that I've met. So again, kudos to you for creating a wonderful culture and a place, to work in.
Thank you.
Now, what's the best way for you to be contacted?
So I can be reached via email at Keegan, Keegan, the letter A, at acld.org. Or you can reach out at 516-822-0028 or find us online at acld.org.
We'd like to leave you with DB's philosophy. Love is enviable. State that knows no envy or vanity, only empathy and a longing to be greater than oneself. Unknown.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. This is an NCC Foundation production. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and podcasts on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.